The shattered piece, the morning star of Zelkos Prime, cast its golden light across the archaeological dig site where Dr. Vex Corthony carefully brushed ancient dust from what would become the galaxy's greatest nightmare. The Zelkari were a methodical people, their blue-scaled hands steady and precise as they worked. Their civilization had been built on order, mathematics, and careful planning. Every building in their cities followed perfect geometric patterns. Every decision was made through logical consensus. Chaos was not just foreign to them, it was unthinkable. "Professor, you need to see this," called his daughter Zara from the excavation pit. Her voice carried the excitement of discovery mixed with something else. Something that might have been fear if the Zelkari were capable of such irrational emotions. She stood beside a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light, its surface covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when observed directly. Dr. Corthony descended into the pit, his scientific instruments already humming, with readings that made no sense. The object was roughly spherical, about the size of a small building, and composed of materials that their sensors couldn't identify. The carbon dating suggests this artifact predates any known civilization by millions of years, he said, adjusting his spectacles. The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. The dig team gathered around their discovery. 20 of the galaxy's finest xenarchaeologists, representing the cream of Zelkari academic achievement. They had spent 3 months carefully excavating this dead world, following traces of an ancient civilization that had vanished without explanation. Now they had found what they were looking for, though none of them understood what they were truly looking at. "The inscriptions appear to be some form of mathematical formula," observed Dr. Kellen, the team's linguist. "But the mathematics are wrong. The equations don't balance. They seem to describe impossible relationships between energy and matter." Her scaled fingers traced the air above the symbols, not quite daring to touch them. What the Zelkari archaeologists couldn't know was that the equations weren't wrong. They were describing something their ordered minds couldn't comprehend. The artifact was what the ancient race had called an entropy engine, a device designed to channel the fundamental forces of chaos that existed in the spaces between dimensions. It had been buried here as a warning, not a treasure. Dr. Corthony made the decision that would doom his people and transform the galaxy. "Begin the activation sequence," he ordered. "If this is a data storage device, we need to access its contents to understand the civilization that created it." The scientific method demanded investigation. Their logical minds demanded answers. And so they pressed forward, step by careful step, into disaster. The activation began with a simple probe, a hair-thin beam of energy designed to stimulate the artifact's surface. The response was immediate and catastrophic. The crystalline structure blazed with light that hurt to look at, and the symbols began to move, spinning faster and faster until they became streams of liquid fire racing across the artifact's surface. The air itself began to shimmer and twist. "Shut it down," Dr. Corthony shouted, but it was too late. The entropy engine had been waiting millions of years for this moment, and now it was awake. Reality began to unravel around the dig site. The carefully ordered molecular structures of the archaeological equipment started to shift and flow like water. Metal tools became crystalline sculptures. Digital displays showed impossible readings before melting into puddles of light. Zara screamed as she watched her father's skin begin to ripple with patterns of energy. The chaos wasn't destroying him, it was rewriting him, turning his ordered Zelkari biology into something that shifted between states of matter. Around the dig site, the very ground began to pulse with waves of chaotic energy that spread outward like ripples in a pond. The chaos storm expanded at the speed of light, washing over the Zelkari research station in orbit above the planet. The station's crew had exactly enough time to realize Something was wrong before their ordered reality collapsed into beautiful, terrifying madness. Ships became living things that sang as they dissolved. Computer systems sprouted flowers of ours, pure mathematics. The crew themselves were transformed into beings of living energy, conscious but no longer recognizably Zelkari. Within hours, the chaos waves reached Zelkos Prime itself. The perfectly geometric cities began to twist and flow. Buildings became trees of metal and crystal. Transportation networks turned into rivers of light. The Zelkari population, so dependent on order and predictability, found themselves in a world where the laws of physics changed from moment to moment. Most simply shut down mentally, unable to process a reality that defied their fundamental understanding of existence. The distress signals that escaped the chaos zones were fragmented and desperate. This is Zelko's command. ... Reality is. The mathematics are breaking ... Help us. Everything is changing ... God, help us all. The messages grew more incoherent as the chaos spread, until finally there was only silence from what had once been one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. 18 light-years away, in the cold depths of space, Earth's deep space monitoring, Station Delta 7 picked up the first traces of the disaster. Lieutenant Sarah Chun was finishing her night shift when the quantum sensors began registering impossible readings. Commander Hayes, she called to her superior, were getting some very strange signals from the Zelkari sectors. Commander Hayes, a grizzled veteran of 30 years in deep space, looked at the displays with growing concern. What kind of strange? He asked, though he was already reaching for the emergency communications array. The quantum field measurements are, well, they're not stable, Shen replied, her training struggling to find words for what she was seeing. It's like reality itself is becoming unstable in those regions. The energy patterns don't match anything in our databases. Hayes studied the readings for a long moment. The chaos signatures were spreading, consuming star system after star system. At their current rate of expansion, they would reach human space within months. Get me Admiral Torres at Strategic Command, he ordered. Priority Alpha, we have a galaxy-wide crisis developing. The transmission reached Earth's Strategic Command just as Dr. Marcus Webb was presenting his latest research on chaos theory to a half-empty auditorium. Webb was considered something of an oddity in the scientific community, a brilliant mathematician who insisted that chaos wasn't the opposite of order, but rather the source from which all order emerged. His theories were elegant, but largely theoretical, with little practical application. That was about to change. Admiral Torres burst into Webb's lecture hall with a small army of military personnel and scientists. Dr. Webb, we need you to look at something, she said without preamble. Something that might prove your theories about chaos mathematics. Within an hour, Webb was studying the quantum signatures from the Zelkari disaster zone. His eyes grew wide as he recognized the patterns. My God, he whispered. This isn't random destruction. These chaos signatures follow mathematical principles. They're following my equations. You're saying this chaos storm is predictable? Torres asked. More than that, Webb replied, his fingers dancing across holographic displays as he traced. The energy patterns. I'm saying it's controllable. Chaos isn't destruction, it's infinite potential. Every possible arrangement of matter and energy exists simultaneously in the chaos field. The question isn't how to stop it. The question is how to shape it. Captain Sarah Chun, newly promoted and assigned to Earth's first crisis response fleet, stood in the briefing room as Admiral Torres outlined humanity's response to the growing chaos zones. Around the table sat the finest minds in human space scientists, engineers, military strategists, and xenobiologists. They were about to attempt something that no other species had tried. Instead of fleeing from the chaos, they were going to study it. Asterisk. The Andorian collective evacuated 17 systems before the chaos caught up to them, Torres reported. The crystalline hegemony simply ceased all communications when the waves reached their space. Every species that has encountered this phenomenon has either fled or been consumed. Every species except one. She gestured to a holographic display showing scattered reports from the chaos zones. We're getting fragmentary signals from human exploration teams that were caught in the initial expansion. They're not dead. They're not transformed beyond recognition like the Zelkari. They're adapting. Dr. Webb leaned forward intently. What do you mean, adapting? I mean they're finding ways to work with the chaos instead of against it, Torres replied. Survey Team 7 reported that their equipment began functioning differently when exposed to chaos fields, but it didn't stop functioning. It started doing things our technology was never designed to do. Engineer Patricia Voss managed to use chaos-altered tools to repair her ship's engines, even though the repairs should have been impossible, according to our understanding of physics. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. Where other species saw the end of their ordered universe, humans saw a new set of tools to master. We're going in, Sean said quietly. We're going to learn to use this chaos energy, aren't we? Admiral Torres nodded grimly. Captain Chun, you'll be leading our first chaos research expedition. Dr. Webb, you'll be her chief science advisor. Your mission is to find survivors, study the chaos phenomena, and discover whether humanity can turn this galactic disaster into an advantage. As the meeting dispersed, Webb caught Chun's arm. Captain, there's something else. Something I didn't mention in the briefing. His voice was low, urgent. The chaos signatures aren't random. They're building towards something. Creating something. I think the entropy engine isn't just spreading chaos. It's using chaos to construct something new. What kind of something? Chun asked. Webb's expression was troubled. I don't know. But based on the mathematical patterns I'm seeing, it's going to be big. And when it's finished, it's going to reshape the fundamental nature of this galaxy. The human fleet departed Earth orbit 12 hours later, heading directly into the heart of the chaos zones, while every other species in the galaxy fled in the opposite direction. Captain Chun stood on the bridge of the research vessel Prometheus, watching the stars ahead begin to shimmer with impossible colors as they approached the boundary of stable space. Behind them, humanity's greatest minds worked frantically to understand what they were flying toward. Ahead of them, reality itself had become a canvas for forces beyond imagination. And somewhere in the depths of the chaos, the entropy engine continued its ancient work, unaware that it was about to encounter the one species in the galaxy that looked at chaos and saw not an ending, but a beginning. Asterisk, the human solution. Moment the Prometheus crossed into the chaos zone, Captain Sarah Chun knew that everything she had learned about reality was wrong. The bridge displays flickered with impossible readings as waves of chaotic energy washed over the ship. Instead of the violent destruction they had expected, the chaos seemed almost curious. The ship's hull began to resonate with harmonics that shouldn't exist, and the quantum engines started producing twice their normal output while using half the fuel. Dr. Webb, Chun called to the scientist who was frantically taking readings at every station. Please tell me you understand what's happening to my ship. Webb looked up from his instruments, his eyes bright with excitement rather than fear. Captain, we're not being destroyed. We're being interviewed. The chaos field is testing our technology, our biology, even our thoughts. It's learning from us just as much as we're learning from it. In the ship's medical bay, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Lisa Park was making discoveries that would revolutionize human understanding of biology. The chaos energy wasn't harming the crew. It was revealing the hidden potential in their genetic code. Captain, she reported over the intercom, the crew is showing enhanced neural activity, improved physical coordination, and accelerated healing. It's as if the chaos is unlocking capabilities we never knew we had. The first rescue mission came sooner than expected. A distress beacon led them to a damaged Zelkari science vessel drifting in a particularly dense chaos field. The ship itself had been transformed into something resembling a living organism, its metal hull pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Inside, they found Zara Corthany, the only survivor of her father's archaeological expedition. When they brought her aboard the Prometheus, Zara was barely recognizable as Zelkari. Her blue scales had become crystalline, refracting light in patterns. That conveyed emotions more clearly than words ever could. She could no longer speak in the precise, logical manner of her people. Instead, she communicated in bursts of mathematical concepts that Dr. Webb found more efficient than traditional language. "The engine," she managed to say in broken standard, her crystalline form flickering with distress patterns. "Father found the engine. Ancient ones built it. Not weapon, tool, reality tool. Makes possible from impossible." Through patient communication, they learned that the entropy engine wasn't a random artifact. It was a device created by a civilization that had transcended the limitations of ordered reality. They had built it to seed the galaxy with chaos energy, preparing the universe for a transformation that would take millions of years to complete. The chaos wasn't destroying reality. It was preparing reality for something greater. Dr. Webb spent sleepless days studying the patterns of chaos energy that flowed through their transformed ship. He realized that chaos wasn't random at all. It followed rules, but they were rules that operated on principles human science had never imagined. "Captain," he announced during one of their daily briefings, "I think I know how to build a chaos refinery." "A what?" Sean asked. "A device that can take raw chaos energy and shape it into useful forms. Think of it as a factory that uses possibility itself as raw material. We could create anything, energy, matter, even information, by channeling chaos through the right mathematical frameworks." The prototype chaos refinery was built in the Prometheus's cargo bay using a combination of human engineering and chaos transformed materials. The device looked like a hybrid between a particle accelerator and a living organism, its biomechanical components pulsing with the rhythm of the chaos fields around them. The first test was simple. They fed random debris into the refinery and used Webb's equations to guide the chaos energy. The results exceeded their wildest expectations. The debris was transformed into pure energy, exotic matter, and even coherent information patterns that their computers could barely process. They had essentially created a machine that could turn anything into anything else. News of their success reached Earth just as the chaos zones expanded to threaten human colonies. Admiral Torres's response was swift and decisive. "Build more refineries," she ordered. "Every ship, every station, every colony that might be caught in the chaos expansion. We're not evacuating. We're adapting." Within weeks, human space was transformed. Chaos refineries appeared throughout the fleet, turning the advancing waves of chaotic energy into humanity's greatest advantage. Ships powered by chaos energy could travel faster than light without the limitations of traditional hyperspace. Weapons powered by chaos could reconfigure matter at the quantum level, making conventional shields useless. Most importantly, humans themselves began to change. Unlike the Zelkari, who had been overwhelmed by chaos, humans seemed to thrive in chaotic environments. Their natural adaptability, their comfort with uncertainty, and their tendency to find patterns in randomness made them natural chaos navigators. Human soldiers could walk through chaos storms that would drive other species insane. Human engineers could repair equipment using chaos-altered materials that functioned better than the original components. Asterisk. Captain Chun found herself at the center of humanity's transformation when her ship was selected to lead the mission to the source of the chaos. The original entropy engine on the dead world where Dr. Corthany had made his fateful discovery. The planet was now completely transformed, its surface a writhing landscape of pure possibility, where mountains could become oceans and deserts, could become forests from moment to moment. The entropy engine itself had grown. What had once been a crystalline artifact the size of a building was now a massive structure that dominated the planet's surface, its spires reaching into space itself. Around it, reality bent and flowed like water, creating a zone where the normal laws of physics were merely suggestions. "It's beautiful," Zara whispered as they approached in their chaos-adapted shuttle. Her crystalline form was resonating with the engine's emanations, creating harmonics that filled the cabin with music that existed in dimensions beyond sound. Dr. Webb was studying the engine's structure with instruments that had been transformed by chaos into devices that could measure possibilities rather than certainties. "Captain, the engine isn't just spreading chaos. It's building something. A framework. A new kind of space-time that can support forms of life and consciousness that couldn't exist in our ordered reality." As they landed near the engine, they discovered they weren't alone. Other humans had been drawn to this place: explorers, scientists, and visionaries who had followed the chaos currents to their source. They had built a community around the engine, learning to live in harmony with the chaotic forces that flowed from it. "We call it Haven," explained Dr. Patricia Voss, the engineer whose chaos repairs had first demonstrated human adaptability. She had been transformed by her exposure to chaos, her body now existing in a state of controlled quantum uncertainty that allowed her to interface directly with chaos-based technology. The engine doesn't just create chaos, it creates potential. Unlimited potential. Chun realized that humanity had reached a crossroads. They could try to contain the chaos, to limit its spread and maintain the ordered galaxy that had existed before. Or they could embrace the transformation, becoming shepherds of a new kind of reality, where the impossible became every day. That the decision came when the remnants of the galactic community, the species that had survived the chaos expansion by fleeing, to the galaxy's edge sent a massive fleet to destroy the entropy engine. They saw the chaos as an infection that had to be burned out before it consumed everything they knew and valued. Their combined fleets represented the military might of dozens of civilizations, all united in their determination to restore order. Captain Chun stood before the entropy engine as the alien fleet approached, her hand resting on the chaos refinery, control that could channel the engine's full power. She could use that power to destroy the approaching fleet, to force the galaxy to accept humanity's new role as masters of chaos, or she could find another way. "Dr. Webb," she said quietly, "can you use the engine to communicate with them? Show them what we've learned?" Webb nodded, his fingers dancing over controls that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The entropy engine pulsed, and a wave of controlled chaos energy reached out to touch the minds of every being in the approaching fleet. For a moment that lasted an eternity, every alien consciousness experienced what the humans had discovered. They felt the exhilaration of unlimited possibility. They saw the potential for growth and transformation that chaos offered. They understood that chaos wasn't the enemy of order. It was the source from which all order could emerge. The fleet stopped. Then, one by one, ships began to break away from the formation. They approached the planet not as conquerors, but as students. Representatives from a dozen species requested permission to study alongside the humans, to learn how to work with chaos rather than against it. Not all of them stayed. Many species found chaos too alien to their nature, too far removed from their understanding of reality. But enough remained to form the foundation of something new, a galactic civilization that embraced uncertainty, celebrated adaptation, and turned challenges into opportunities. Zara Corthany, her crystalline form now serving as a bridge between human and alien understanding, became the first ambassador of the Chaos Cooperative. Standing beside Captain Shun at the heart of the transformed world, she gestured toward the stars, where chaos and order danced together in patterns of infinite beauty. "Father wanted to understand the past," she said, her voice carrying harmonics. "That spoke of hope and wonder. Instead, he gave us the future. The galaxy had been changed forever. Where once there had been rigid order and predictable laws, now there was potential. And at the center of it all were the humans, the species that had looked at chaos and seen not destruction, but the raw material of dreams. They had become the chaos refiners, turning the galaxy's greatest disaster into its greatest opportunity. For growth. In the depths of space, new forms of life began to emerge from the interaction between chaos and human imagination. Stars sang with voices that had never existed before. Planets grew into gardens of living mathematics. And throughout it all, humanity served as guides and teachers, showing other species how to find order within chaos and chaos within order. Age of rigid certainty was over. The age of infinite possibility had begun. And it had all started with one simple human trait: the refusal to see chaos as the end of the story, but rather as the beginning of something magnificent. Asterisk.